Years ago, I lived in Charleston, South Carolina, and I had a good friend named Carol. She was a young LDS mom like me, and she had a mother-in-law who also lived there in Charleston, who had 9 children. Her mother-in-law, they had finances that were pretty tight, and she used to clean office buildings as a way to help make ends meet in the family in the middle of the night. Well, one night, Carol's mother-in-law wasn't able to go to work. I can't remember if she was sick or something like that, but she asked Carol if she wouldn't mind substituting for her and cleaning those office buildings, and Carol said that she would do that. So Carol went to go clean those office buildings, and about midnight or so, she was coming out of one of the buildings, and she was attacked. There was a man there. She tried to get back in the buildings. There were even scratch marks where her keys, she was trying to get the key back in the door and wasn't able to. The man grabbed her, he raped her, and then there was some construction going on right next to the buildings, and he grabbed a 2x4 from the construction and beat my friend Carol until he thought that he had murdered her. He left her there for dead, stole her purse, took her car keys, stole her car, and started driving up the coast. Carol's husband, when she didn't come home, he kept calling her cell phone. She wasn't answering, so then he called the police. The police said that as an adult, she would have to be gone for 24 hours before they could start searching for her. And so her husband and his family started searching for her because they knew that she should have been home. Someone found her purse thrown off to the side of the road in the middle of the night, and when that was reported to the police, then the police also started in the search. Carol's mother-in-law found her about dawn. She said that she looked like a dead animal, that she was so covered in blood and unrecognizable even as a human being, and it was just a horrible, terrible sight. And they took her to the hospital where she stayed in a coma for several months, and she stayed in the hospital for over a year. She had several brain surgeries, several different types of surgeries, and when she'd been in the hospital over a year, she was finally released to a rehabilitation facility where she lived. She couldn't even go home there then, and she stayed in the rehabilitation facility for the next several years after that. Today, Carol is still in a wheelchair. She isn't able to talk very well. She has slurred speech, can barely slowly get words together. A group of people even had raised money to build a home that had wide hallways so that she could get her wheelchair down the hall. It's a very, very sad thing that she was attacked and had this terrible thing happen to her. The worst part of all, I think, though, is that they did capture this criminal. He was tried and convicted, and he was sentenced to 16 years in jail, of which he only served 9. So he is out on the street today, living his life, while Carol continues to be in a wheelchair, was unable to raise her boys the way she wanted to. Her husband had to do that alone. It was very, very sad. So this whole experience really outraged me and made me want to take a closer look at the criminal justice system in our country and ask myself, why is it that so many of these criminals don't get harsher sentences than they get? One of the things I discovered when I was researching this was they said that from 1980 to 2008, the number of people incarcerated in America quadrupled from roughly 500,000 to 2.3 million people. Certainly the population of our country didn't quadruple in that amount of time, and so crime has really gone up in our country. Today in the United States, the United States has 5% of the world's population, but has 25% of the world's prisoners. Combining the number of people in prison and jail with those who are under parole or probation supervision, 1 in every 31 adults, or 3.2% of the population, is under some form of correctional control right now. We spend a lot of money on incarceration. We spend about $70 billion every year on corrections. And they tried to come up with some good laws. You probably heard of the 3 strikes and you're out law. Which sounds like it makes sense, but I think if you commit a really violent crime like rape or murder, I don't think you should get 3 chances. I think that's it. You committed such a terrible crime, you should get a terrible punishment. And the 3 strikes and you're out law can put someone in jail for life that maybe really doesn't even deserve to be in jail for life. For example, say there's an 18-year-old high school senior who pushes a classmate down and steals his $150 shoes. He gets 1 strike. He gets out of jail, shoplifts a jacket from a store and he pushes aside the clerk as he runs out of the store. This is a second strike. He gets out of jail. He straightens out, and 9 years later he gets into a fight in a bar, hits someone on purpose, breaks the guy's nose. This is all criminal behavior for sure, but this man will spend the rest of his life in jail for these 3 much more minor crimes. So, in this type of case, which is not really that unusual, happens all the time, he's going to spend the rest of his life in jail for relatively smaller crimes. Under our system of criminal justice, the punishment really needs to fit the crime. Individuals should not be executed for burglarizing a house, nor incarcerated for life for committing relatively minor offenses, even when they commit several of them. This principle, known as proportionality, is expressed in the 8th Amendment of the Bill of Rights. The 8th Amendment says that excessive bail should not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. Today, the average person that commits a first-degree murder, which means it's premeditated, serves 20 years in jail, and the average person that commits rape is assigned 72 months in jail but only serves 29 of those months. So it really doesn't seem like the punishment fits the crime in these situations. It's my belief that, if you commit a really serious, violent crime like that you should be, for murder, you should be in for a very long time, if not life. My hope is that all of us will realize the seriousness of this and the importance of this, and that we will make ourselves, get involved, become aware of the politics involved in all of this, vote for the politicians who are, more willing to put harsher sentences on these criminals, and do the things that will help us to be more harsh and more severe on these violent crimes, and just vote for people who believe in a punishment fitting a crime.